Welcome to Fresh Start. Are you ready for health? Today we're going to talk about how to balance stress. You can find us on our website, freshstart.mhsystem.org. Under Learn the Basics tab, scroll right down to Balance Stress, and you'll find everything on the website that we're going to show you today. Not everyone will resonate with everything we talk about today, but there's something here for everyone. Are you stressed? I guess we can ask, are you alive? If you're alive, you are certainly stressed. Stress is a normal part of life. If we had no stress, we'd never get out of bed in the morning to go to work or do the things that are before us. So stress helps motivate us in a good way. But stress not only is good, it can be bad. We can talk about stress in two forms, acute and chronic. We're all familiar with that acute stress reaction, that natural protective reaction to potential danger, that fight or flight response. Our adrenaline surges, we become hyper alert, our heart pounds, our blood pressure goes up, we shift our blood to the muscles. We also can have chronic stress. The question is, when does stress become distress? We have normal mechanisms built into us to help us deal with stress, but sometimes our stress outweighs our body's reserves. In that case, we feel like a boat that's sinking, full of water, unable to keep afloat. There are multiple causes of unbalanced stress. Many of those are poor lifestyle choices. We've been talking a lot about those and will continue to do so in other modules. Our thought patterns can also unbalance our stress. Health problems, pain, hyperthyroidism can give us that sense of anxiety, and external influences. Unbalanced stress accounts for 70% of our primary care medical visits. Stress affects us in many ways. There's a direct effect on our adrenaline, which causes our heart rate to go up and our blood pressure to increase. And there's also effects on our gastrointestinal system, which influences our digestion, and our immune system, which influences our ability to heal. There's also indirect behavioral effects. We eat poorly, we are more sedentary, we have trouble sleeping, and we're more prone to substance use. Stress and disease are intertwined. Stress causes disease, and disease causes stress. There are many effects of stress that we can recognize. There's effects on our body, such as headache, muscle tension or pain. We might even have chest pain, fatigue, change in sex drive, stomach upset, sleep problems, and poor healing. Stress also affects our mood. We can become anxious, restless, have a lack of motivation or focus. Sometimes we'll feel overwhelmed, irritable, angry, sad, or depressed. Stress also then affects our behavior. We might overeat or undereat, have angry outbursts, get involved with drug or alcohol abuse, tobacco abuse, social withdrawal, and even exercising less. How can we deal with stress? Well, there's a couple ways. One is we can try to reduce the stressor by altering the environment, but that's not always possible. The other thing we can do is practice some stress management techniques. That reminds me of that serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So let's talk a little bit about stress management and some of the things that we can do. Are you ready for health? And let's talk through some stress management techniques that might be helpful to you. The first is that you can re-engineer parts of your life. One of your informational handouts lists some ideas that you can look through to help you reduce stress. We'll go through some of those together here. You can begin by managing your lifestyle. That begins with a healthy diet. We've talked a lot about that in prior modules. By now, I hope you understand what a truly healthy diet is. Being aware of the effects of stress on our diet are helpful. Stress oftentimes leads to a poor diet, and you get into this vicious cycle where it just increases your stress as you feel guilty for the things that you've eaten. You need to just acknowledge that and break that cycle and make positive changes in your diet. You can also increase your physical activity to help you deal with stress. Physical activity extinguishes that fight or flight response. It releases helpful positive neurochemicals, reduces that stress-induced blood pressure, improves your mood, and provides a mental break. Rest and sleep are also helpful to help you manage your stress. Stress and sleep are interrelated. If you have lots of stress, it tends to contribute to poor sleep, and then poor sleep increases your sense of stress. You want to avoid that excess caffeine, which can give you a sense of anxiety and increase your level of stress. And you also want to avoid alcohol, tobacco, and drugs. You certainly don't want to use those to treat your sense of stress. Are you just juggling too much? Do you need to learn to say no? Back in our first module, we talked about purpose. Hopefully now you have a clear-cut idea of what your purpose is and what you hope for a better future. With that in mind, as you make decisions of what you're going to expend your resources on, be consistent with your purpose. Ask yourself before you make a decision, how does this contribute to that which is important to me? How does this add meaning? If it doesn't, maybe you need to say no. You also need to build in margin. Allow for white space. Learn to say no. For example, take a look at this. How do you respond when you look at this? I tend to glaze over and not even try to make any sense out of it. But what if we reframe this like this? That white space all of a sudden helps you organize this into something that you can read and understand. It's the same thing with our lives. We need to create some structure, including white space. One way to do that is to have a routine. Avoid expending your valuable energy and time on things that aren't important. Having a to-do list for the next day helps you organize your thoughts and can guide you through the things you should say yes and no to the following day. It may also be helpful for you to set up your food and your clothes for the next day so you don't have to make that decision in the morning while you're trying to get ready for work. Having a regular bedtime is very helpful. We'll talk more about sleep in another module. And then again, be careful with that alcohol and caffeine, both which are addictive and can disrupt your sleep, causing increased levels of stress. And be sure to include some white space, those breaks through your routine. Guard your time. Have some protected, dedicated time to do the tasks that are before you. Maybe turn off that internet and email notifications, take a break from the news, block out your calendar so you can do some work without being interrupted, and choose appointments thoughtfully. Say no if those appointments aren't going to constructively add to your day. At the end of the day, you can review your past day, reflect on your accomplishments. What are you grateful for? Those can help you relax and feel like you've done something worthwhile for the day. You also want to preempt conflict. Conflict just causes stress. So be honest, own up to your mistakes, accept responsibility, and avoid those unnecessary confrontations. Hold off on that email, text, or blog response that just might raise somebody's hackles. Let others have their own opinions just as you'd like to have your own. Are you ready for health? Now we'd like to talk about how to manage your thoughts to help manage your stress. We want to focus on some mind-body practices. They've been shown scientifically to have short-term benefits in helping reduce heart rate and blood pressure, as well as improve cortisol, improve your thinking, and lower perceived stress. They also have some long-term benefits. They cause a more healthy cycling of cortisol levels, improved heart rhythm findings, insulin sensitivity, lower inflammation, improvements in epigenetics and telomere length, and improved brain function and structure. Let's look first at mindfulness. This is defined as a non-judgmental state of intentionally focused attention to the present and what is happening around or inside an individual at the moment. Mindfulness is being in the present, not thinking about the past or the future, but being where you're at in the environment you are in and engaged with it mentally. Here's a great example. Here's a little girl that's totally focused on the present. She's not concerned about her next meal. She's not concerned about something that happened yesterday. She's totally focused on this watermelon, the smooth skin with her left hand, the moistness and pinkness with her right hand, and she's going to take that right hand, with the nice sweet juice and put it right into her mouth and totally enjoy it. She's totally in the moment. She's mindful. One of our handouts has a slow down the speed of eating exercise to help you enjoy an apple or some other favorite food very mindfully. I'd encourage you to try this at home. Earlier we talked about a stress reaction. Now we want to talk a little bit about a healthy stress response. You can take a moment and think about it, understanding the situation, being mindful of it without judgment. That guy just cut in front of you, no wonder your heart's racing. It's not that there's a problem with your heart. You recognize that it was the guy's action, not anything that you did. And you have control over how you respond. You can speed up and honk your horn at him, or you can just relax and let it pass. This promotes balance and doesn't exceed your reserves. We also want to think a moment about the power of our memories for both good and bad. Your memories have powerful influence over your mind. Think a moment about a lemon. Just think about cutting that lemon, smelling it, holding it up to your mouth, taking a sip of that lemon. Is it making you pucker up? Do you actually have a lemon? No, it's just the memory of the lemon that's doing that. It's healthy to have positive thoughts. Think about those good past experiences, things that you're thankful for and grateful for. As you relive those thoughts, you actually release those healthy, feel-good hormones again in your brain. On the other hand, we can suffer from something called cognitive distortion. Our minds can be our own worst enemy. We can easily fall into a series of unhealthy thought patterns. You also have this as a handout that you can look at these in more detail. We will highlight just a few of these. That all or nothing response is all too common for many of us. We see only in black and white, only in good and bad. After eating a cookie, you think, I blew it, I might as well eat the whole bag. Or how about that mental filter where you focus on one negative detail? Even though you're losing weight and your blood pressure is better, you think you're failing because your cholesterol has not come down. Or maybe jumping to conclusions is your favorite, where you think you can read somebody else's mind. You think that somebody's laughing at you because you ordered tofu in the restaurant. Several others that you can look at on your own to see which ones are your favorites. What we'd like to invite you to do is untwist your twisted thinking. Once you've identified your distorted thinking, you can deal with it. Consider your negative thoughts and see if they fit one of the categories of cognitive distortion. Examine the evidence. Is your negative thought really true? Think of or list the evidence to the contrary. Consider your past successes. Are you really a failure? Instead of thinking in black and white or success or failure, maybe use a scale of 0 to 10 or 0 to 100. I kept 50% of my goals. That's not being a failure. Ask friends if they agree with your negative thoughts. They may be able to more objectively shed some light on that. And think positive. Substitute your negative language with less emotionally charged words. Instead of should, try it would be helpful to. Are you struggling with unforgiveness towards somebody? You're actually just hurting yourself. You're keeping yourself in prison. A friend of mine who's a counselor says it's like running around with a backpack of rotten potatoes. You're the one carrying the weight and the stench. Forgiveness is difficult, don't get me wrong, but there's some things you can do to help. Remember when you've been misunderstood? Maybe you need to cut somebody some slack and think maybe they were just misunderstood as well. Another thing that's helpful for people is to visualize that person they're angry with in an empty chair and just let them have it verbally. Afterwards, you may feel better. Sometimes the root cause of unforgiveness is that you need to forgive yourself. Maybe that's something you need to start with. If you're struggling with forgiveness, maybe you need to seek help. Consider counseling from a clergy or somebody who's trained in dealing with this. Next, we want to focus just a couple of minutes on some techniques you can use to help you relax. One of these is deep breathing. There's different types you can do. One is called square or box breathing. You can find a video on our website demonstrating how to do this. This slows the heart rate, decreases blood pressure, allows that adrenaline surge to pass, has a very calming effect, and improves your mood. You can do it for just a few seconds if that's all you have, or several minutes. Another technique is the relaxation response. This actually combines several techniques such as deep breathing and mindfulness. There's also a video to guide you through that on our website. Before you do these, I would encourage you to take your pulse, and then again after, to see what kind of effect it had on your heart rate. Are you ready for health? So what else can you do? Well, another thing that's really helpful is to take a break, to disconnect your mind from those things that are causing you that stress. That break can be an enjoyable activity like reading or playing games or walking or exercising or taking a nap. It should interrupt the stress cycle. Other things you can do are meditation, prayer, yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, massage, a nature exposure, and a Sabbath. Another thing that's helpful with stress management is social interaction. Attending spiritual activities like church or other place of worship. Being involved in social clubs with activities like dancing. Reaching out to family or friends to have a live conversation. Maybe just watching a funny movie causing you to laugh and relax. And volunteering. So we want you to relax, to learn how to balance your stress. Think of stress management as medicine. Try to practice at least 10 minutes of a stress management technique a day. You can go to our website and find several videos that will guide you through these techniques. Now it's time to set some SMART goals. Your goals may be something as simple as I'll consume only 1 caffeinated beverage a day on 5 days a week to see if that helps reduce your level of stress and that feeling of anxiety. Or maybe you will exercise for 10 minutes after an evening meal 5 days a week. Another idea would be to review those ideas for reducing stress and choose a couple to apply to your life. You can find that summary of what we've talked about on the Balance of Your Stress goal sheet. On the second page of that, you can choose the goals that best fit you. Are you ready for health?